welcome to the next round in this ongoing saga of the US IndyCar League Season 12. It's race 4 of 12 here from Kansas City, Kansas. For Kansas 190 presented by StickQuik, and we're going to be doing 127 laps of high-flying action in Dewara IR18 IndyCars right here on the 1.5-mile circuit. So glad to have you along with us right now, live, virtually, in 4K on our YouTube channel. So great to have you from around the world watching live as we get set to do some battle here. And we're checking in on the drivers. They're just getting set to go on track for qualifying. We've got Mike West, as you can see, on track. Of course, my name is Trevor Greenfield, and I will be your host commentator today, as I have been all season. And let's see if we can find out some of the timing here for these guys. Just a moment here. And there we go. So just Mike West and Kennedy getting in a time. See where we're at. We've got Kennedy with a 25.124. Mike West putting in a time good enough for second quick. Dan Ensch getting in a good qualifier thus far in third. 7 of our, I believe, 12 drivers are out there at the moment, getting in their qualifying laps. Rick Lovison putting in a 25.12 as well. So from my timing scoring software, you can see it there. It's separated out into hundreds, but so far second and third with Jason Lowe and James Kennedy tied for that position. Dan Ensch not able to qualify better than 7th, and Rick Lovison setting the pace here today. So some different things afoot in the US IndyCar League. Different drivers making their way to the front. Here's Mr. StickQuik, Richard Kelbaugh, putting in his lap 5th quickest. He'll pull it in off the track. Still have a couple of favorites to go. We've got, we'll watch this one first, this favorite first. Graham Bunyan. It's won a couple of times already this season, and looking to add to that total, add to his points total. Current season points leader and reigning points champion, reigning series champion, Graham Bunyan. His first lap only good enough for 9th at 25.6. We'll see if he can pick it up. He's got to drop 0.5 of a second this lap. Jump on board the 101 car as Graham makes his way around. And with that one only good enough for 4th quickest, we jump over to fellow Australian David Strid, who seemed to have most of the answers figured out for this series. And will his qualifier get him up there? It sure does. He snatches that pole position from David Strid by just 13/100ths of a second, but manages to take it from Rick. That was almost going to be Rick's first pole position, but instead David Strid will add to that ongoing list of pole positions that he has claimed over the past couple of seasons. And we'll see if possibly Mardones, the only driver right now who has a chance. He's still out there on track, finishing his second lap. First lap only good for 11th. Will he take pole position? No, only good for 8th. But if you look at that time, look at the time separating first from 10th. Dan Ensch, less than 1/10 of a second separating. In fact, 1/10 of a second, less than 1/10 of a second separating first to 10th, Dan Ensch. So very competitive field as we get set for today's action. And we're just seeing the checkered flag come out for the session, and so we'll get a chance to take a look officially at the results. Appearing on your screen momentarily. There we go. David Strid with your pole position. No surprise at 25.105. The Australians had some fantastic times laid down this season in both qualifying and in the race. But Strid is going to be looking for some more consistency in the race today. We'll get to that in a little bit. Rick Lovison pulling in his best qualifying effort thus far, second fastest. We'll see if that can translate to some race laps today and see if that can possibly translate to a race podium or win for Lovison. James Kennedy in third, won a race last season. Looking forward to seeing this driver continue to keep his competitiveness and give these front runners a challenge for that race win today. Jason Lowe starting fourth. Graham Bunyan, your series points leader, going to be starting fifth, and that's pretty interesting. He's not usually starting that far back in the field, if you can call fifth very far back, but the third row is where he'll have to get it done from today if he has intention to get this race win. Howard Livingston has had a couple of podiums this season already and looking to add to that total. He's a fast driver who has won at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, another 1.5 miler. He may have what it takes again today. We'll see. Richard Kelbaugh, Mr. StickQuik, also going to be starting next to Howard Livingston. On row 4, we've got Iñigo Mardones and Mike West. Row 5, strategy and long stint favorite Dan Ensch is going to be checking in from 10th position. He's got a long ways to go forward, but if he's just planning on saving fuel in the back anyway, it's probably not that far to go. Danny Alt is going to be making another start with us today. Great to have him back in the field, starting from 11th. And Manuel Gomez-Esteban, wasn't sure if he was going to make the field today, but he did just sneak in at time, so he didn't get in a great qualifying effort, but I think overall you can look for him to make his way forward in the field. While these drivers are starting to make their way around, look forward at David Strid, who's going to be leading us to the green flag today. And, well, why don't we take a look while we have a moment at our points popping up on your screen now. It's Graham Bunyan, as I've mentioned. He's got a pretty solid lead over David Zaleski. Zaleski not in the field today, going to miss a couple of races. Howard Livingston in third, Rick Lovison fourth, Iñigo Mardones in fifth. We get set to go racing here at Kansas. 127 laps of battle, and David Strid leading us to the green flag. Rick Lovison dropping back on the start there into the clutches, as you can see, of Jason Lowe, three-time champion of the US IndyCar Series, US IndyCar League, presented by StickQuik. And there, Howard Livingston making his move down the inside of Jason Lowe. As Lowe drifts up the track, looks like a couple of drivers. Mike West just behind, drifting up as well. Some different movement going on further back. Rick Kelbaugh having... Oh, and there's Mike West cutting across the track. Was that Graham Bunyan cutting across the track? I couldn't track with that one. Or was that Danny Alt? Danny Alt actually racing that paint scheme this week. So there you go. That's why Danny Alt, part of that team with that livery, and unfortunately having a moment there on your first lap, getting it into the wall. I think just something went wrong in the cockpit there. We watch from on board. He gets down onto the apron, and then there's just that. Right sides are on the track and left sides are on the apron, and it just catches him out, throws him sideways. Saw that happen just the other day in our Indy Fix race that we were broadcasting here, but we're still green on the track. And go back to the live picture here momentarily. Apologize for any sort of disruption here. Really sure what our software is doing today. So it's David Strid still in your lead. James Kennedy fighting a hard second place and trying to make it a battle here. And Jason Lowe just starting to creep into your picture from third. There we go. Hopefully able to get your timing and scoring back there. Okay. So as this battle continues, it's David Strid, James Kennedy, Jason Lowe in third. Rick Lovison has dropped back from his nearly pole position back into fourth, but he's hanging on to this train pretty well. Just behind, though, it's opened up a little bit more, although everybody is still close enough by. It's Howard Livingston hanging on to fifth, up a spot. Mike West has climbed 3 spots back here. And we've got some side-by-side action happening a little bit further forward as Jason Lowe. And just in front, it is, in fact, James Kennedy coming to the front around David Strid. So Kennedy marching to the front. Now wants to take a shot at breaking the air for everyone else. David Strid not having much of that on the outside. Strid in the familiar Team Penske colors there. He's for so many years. Of course, nowadays, Penske not having that sponsorship doesn't really use that paint scheme any longer. Just a cool throwback effort to the old days of the IRL and kart. And Strid there looking back to the outside. Unable to make the pass. Just, I think at this point, Strid just kind of taking his time. Deciding where and how he wants to pass. Kansas, very difficult place to make that pass. Not really long enough straightaways to get it done on drafting alone, and so you're going to need a little bit of help. Either Kennedy's going to have to make a mistake and possibly slide up the track, give up the inside, or have to wait for some lap traffic to possibly cause a factor. So we take a look as these two continue to battle side by side. Just behind them, it's Jason Lowe and Rick Lovison doing their own battling. At the moment, it's nose to tail. Rick hanging on to that 4th spot. You see just in front, it's the leaders again. Trying to go side by side, and I don't think anybody's going to get much done that way, that's for sure. It should allow 3rd place Jason Lowe and Rick Lovison there in 4th to hang on to this battle more than anything, especially if these two aren't swapping positions, which you would do perhaps if you're teammates. That would allow you to possibly start to walk off the front of this thing, but if they're just going to go side by side like this, it creates quite a big hole of air back there that allows the following drivers to certainly catch up. So take a look at some of those following drivers. You got Jason Lowe, as I mentioned, 3-time champion, lost the crown last season to Graham Bunyan, but trying to fight back in the points. Right now, it's a difficult go of it in this league. Some very, very competitive, fast racers, but Jason Lowe trying to get some more consistent finishes, perhaps a race win or two, get back in this championship fight. Rick Lovison there in 4th. As I mentioned, he's dropped a couple of spots since his start, but he's hanging on, I think, right where he wants to be. Perhaps making those fuel numbers. Iñigo Mardones, top international driver from outside the United States, besides an Australian. And Iñigo from Spain coming forward, and he's up 3 spots so far. So this is just one of those drivers, Iñigo, who has not yet won a race in this series, but racing for Necky Racing Team. We've seen them have great success in Indy Fixed, and they're participating in the Indy Fixed Euro broadcast that we do here on Thursdays on VirtualRacing.Network. So if you love IndyCar racing, you want to subscribe and tune in on Thursdays because that is a lot of fun. Fixed racing just like this series. But Iñigo Mardones is not quite able to make his stamp on the series yet. We need to get that guy onto the top of the podium and get him into the broadcast booth so we can have some words in Spanish with Iñigo. But he's trying to make his way forward and racing with the number 666 number, or racing number, and perhaps that's good luck to him. Howard, and there, just as we were talking, Mardones getting up high, having an issue there, and now losing a couple of positions to Howard Livingston, Mike West, and Dan Ensch. So tires starting to go off perhaps for Iñigo Mardones. We see him at the back of that picture. There's Mike West on lap 19. He's up 3 spots, hanging out in sixth place right now. But again, as these tires start to fall off, we'll get to see some of these drivers come forward or not. Dan Ensch had a fantastic run going last season, using a lot of strategy to his own gain over the course of the season, but that strategy has not really fallen in his favor in the first races of season 12. Ensch's just the cautions haven't really played out the way that he might have hoped. As we'll go back and take a look at this battle happening at the front, it is Kennedy who leads Strid still over Jason Lowe. These two still continue side by side to see who's got the faster car, and so far neither one has won that battle. And there he tries again. I don't think Strid is ever going to be able to pull it off on the outside. We've seen this happen in Kansas and a lot of these kind of tracks like this where, yeah, you just don't really have a chance to get enough speed, to get enough of a run out of the corner. I mean, you can see there, if this were Indy or if this were another track such as Auto Club or another that you have a long enough straight, you can get a sizable run. So we watch from on board Strid, and a run like that would eventually end up in some sort of either a pass, or you would take the lead going through the corner, perhaps pull it off through the corner or on the backstretch. But not a possibility here. And so these drivers kind of stuck in this battle until one of them starts having problems with their tires. And so it becomes a totally different battle if you're David Strid right now, where these two drivers are now, for all intents and purposes, committed to their lines on the track. So if you're on the outside, you're David Strid, on the inside, James Kennedy. And depending on the setup, which is supplied by the series, and depending on that setup and how it wears those tires, it may be more advantageous to stay on the outside for a lot of laps. It may be less advantageous to stay out there. So it could wear the tires greater. It could force you to have to go up more on the weight tracker. Generally speaking, the outside line is usually easier on the tires, but it's not always the case. And as I said, it sometimes comes down to the exact setup and how it's designed. Is it designed to hold the inside? Is it designed to hold the outside better? So these are the factors that these drivers are having to deal with. They're undoubtedly thinking about their adjustments, their anti-roll bar adjustments, and the weight tracker adjustment, and trying to see, do I want to stay on the inside? Do I want to stay on the outside? Is it going to be a factor? We didn't really take a look at the weather. It is 106 degrees Fahrenheit on the track itself, only a 2-mile-an-hour breeze at the moment, so nothing for these drivers to really have to worry about there. But 104 degrees is warm enough on the track that it could definitely start to affect these tires towards the end of the stint. So again, as we watch on, drivers continuing their battle there for first, second. Jump back to this guy that we talked about a whole lot last season, and he's been having some real difficulty this season, but driver out of Florida, Jason Lowe, is showing that kind of podium potentiality like he showed basically all last season. And this could be the new regular for Jason Lowe. We'll have to find out. But in either case, Jason just doing, I'm sure, just anything he can to get a podium finish out of this week. I mean, it would just mean a lot, I'm sure, to just not have a outside of top 5 or top 10 finish. But it's looking good so far right now for Jason Lowe as we're on lap 31. Just behind, you got Rick Lovison, and still in tow, it is, and there we can see David Strid trying to make a pit stop, not able to do so, going to make an unsafe pit entry. We weren't quite expecting it so early, but that will not work out for Mr. Strid. So we watch him trying to make that pit entry, and it's just so easy to do in these Indy cars. You get so wrapped up in racing. And also a question is how many times you practice those pit entries. Strid's a amazing driver, so I would imagine that, go back to the live picture, we can see some more drivers making their way to pit road. It's Graham Bunyan. And also James Kennedy, but wait a minute, James Kennedy has popped out of the car? He's jumped to the pits. What has happened? Let's take a look, pause it for just a moment, and try to jump over to James Kennedy and see, did he have exactly the same problem? He completely did. Same exact problem on pit entry, going too far, too fast, towing to the pits. And unfortunately, that is going to really sadly affect James Kennedy's day. He was running so well. And now we have another note that another driver has had an incident. Let's see if we can get to this incident. There, it's Mike West having another problem. Yellow. And Rick Kelbaugh in the back having another problem. I am not sure what's going on here, but many problems being had as the drivers are attempting to get into the pits. See Manuel Gomez-Esteban, I believe, making up some ground there on some others who had some issues getting into the pits. So we have, what happened here with Jason Lowe? Jason Lowe having an issue getting into the pits. I cannot believe this. I'm just going to back this one up on the screen and see what has caused this. This is 3-time series champion Jason Lowe touching the apron, and it's sending him directly back up into the turn 4 wall. Now, Jason holding on the track at that moment, collecting his thoughts, counting his digits, and then making his way to pit road there. And he'll be the most fortunate of all of these drivers who have had these problems entering the pits. He'll be the most fortunate because he did not come in through the side door of pit road and therefore get an improper pit entry. Unfortunately, as you can see, that car is badly damaged and might take some serious time for some repairs. Now, I'll tell you who just got into and out of the pits. And, well, if we can get to him, there it is on your screen. Can you believe it? None other than fan favorite Rick Lovison in the Berkshire machine, out there proudly representing Berkshire, which you can pull up on Google. Beautiful resort that he's working at, lodge that he's working at there. You can stay there. It's absolutely gorgeous nearby. You'll have to, he's tried to convey it there with that livery on board. And you can see how that full color livery goes up all the way onto the rest of the car. But it's an absolutely beautiful place that Rick works at and gets to represent on the side pod of the car. And he's got it out front here in Kansas. So all of these Kansas residents and others traveling from around the world to watch the US IndyCar League. As you can see here, it's a sold-out crowd. Standing room only here in Kansas, and they are here seeing that Berkshire logo on the side pod. So we watch a couple of drivers going around here. I'm not sure what exactly Rick is doing. It's definitely slowing on track, letting some drivers go by. So we see Dan Ensch now make his way to the front, passing Rick Lovison. I think the goal here is perhaps to let some drivers get their lap back after that unfortunate incident. But at the moment, we have Dan Ensch in the lead, inheriting the lead, as Lovison's now shown in third. We don't have a direct line into race control, so I can't give you the information as to exactly what's happening, but Dan Ensch now shown in the lead with a number of drivers that need to get their lap back. And Iñigo Mardones currently shown in second. They've all made their first pit stops, so everybody's on that same strategy. Rick Lovison in third. Howard Livingston currently shown in fourth, up 2 spots. Again, Howard, one of those drivers that's won on a D-shaped oval, so somebody you definitely don't want to count out. Graham Bunyan is going to... Well, we're showing Graham, and he's getting the wave around, so... Just have to see how this one works out. Once it all gets circled around, we'll go ahead and get your track map up there on the screen. This is our first caution of the day. You're watching the Kansas 190 presented by StickQuik. Right here on VirtualRacing.Network. It's the US IndyCar League's 4th race of the season. And you can see there on the track map where all of your favorite drivers are at the moment. So as everything restacks, I do not have a reason why Rick Lovison was shown in first and has now drifted back to third. But we do have Dan Ensch shown in first. Dan Ensch making his pit stop and now is going to lead us back to the green flag.
Green, green, green.
So Ensch, Mardones, Lovison, your top 3, with Howard Livingston in 4th in the Care Camps machine, and Graham Bunyan racing side by side with David Strid. But Strid is now a lap down after all of that incident where he spun coming into the pits. So Bunyan got his lap back and is now looking possibly good for a run up to the front. Mike West up 3 spots. And now shown in sixth place, Rick Kelbaugh making a move around Manuel Gomez Esteban. Mr. StickQuik making that StickQuik name known to the fans here in Kansas. Getting that pass done on Gomez Esteban. Gomez Esteban himself up 4 spots today. But I don't know if Gomez Esteban has the pace necessarily to make his way to the front. We will watch for that. In the meantime, go back up to the front, and it's Iñigo Mardones who is in second place and has stayed there as Rick Lovison actually tried to make a move. Not able to quite do so. And now Graham Bunyan, with those fresh tires and a little bit of drafting help, as I think we saw Iñigo Mardones get possibly up into the wall. Stay with this battle as Lovison now tries his move on Mardones and makes it stick. That's Lovison to second place as Graham Bunyan now tries to tuck in behind Lovison and make his way to the front, and he does. Lovison and Bunyan around Mardones. The Necky Racing driver drifting back a little bit here on the start of the second stint as he started up in second, but it's Bunyan, your series points leader at the moment and champion, who's racing outside of Rick Lovison. We'll see if he can do what David Strid could not do in the first stint and get around on the outside. But off the front, it is the ALZ machine, Alzheimer's Association machine for Dan Ensch. He's been trying so hard to get up there into the front all season long. A couple of times predicting it could be his week for the race win, but here today, he's looking as competitive as he has all season long. He's got that car, that purple and white Spark, Last Lap Motorsports, Alzheimer's Association machine looking pretty good right now. But he shouldn't get too comfortable because there on the outside, I guess he got it done on Rick Lovison. But that creeping 101 car right there from Australia, he's coming through in a hurry. He got the fastest lap a few laps ago. Now he's just trying his best on the outside of Dan Ensch. Now Dan, one of those drivers that I would never count on Dan getting rattled by showing up behind him and trying to pressure him, but and there Dan drifts high and lets Graham go by. I think again this is just Dan realizing his best move right now is to sit behind Graham and save that fuel. So you know, you definitely take a real dip in fuel efficiency if you're out there running in front. And Dan Ensch has already done quite a few laps. Now, as we get on to the 49th lap, he did probably about 8 or 9 laps out there in front, breaking that air. And so Dan is going to try to perhaps save fuel here in this stint and just allow the car to kind of float out to the outside, as we've seen so many of these drivers do. It's much easier on the tires. There, he's going to try to work the inside, and I take it back. Dan Ensch making it a battle after all. So just when you think he's going to sit back and fuel save, I think Dan just wants to keep that machine in front, perhaps realizing that if he does try to just sit back, he's got a couple of drivers who are going to haul him in, including Rick Lovison and David Strid, who's trying to get his lap back. So what has happened now to Iñigo Mardones, who's now drifted much, much further back? Again, he was on the same strategy as the rest, getting tires and fuel at the same time, but unfortunately those in-cockpit controls not doing the same thing for the Spaniard that it's doing for everyone else. Unfortunately, drifting back to 6th, but he's still up 2 spots on the day. So, you know, even if you finish there, you always got to feel good about possibly finishing better than you qualified. Mike West also doing better than he qualified, up 4 spots today. Fellow Washingtonian. I think the only competitor from the Northwest United States in the US IndyCar League. So, low-key, he has my fandom, but of course, I don't play favorites here. I just love seeing good action. That's exactly what we got at the front of the field at the moment. We got a 3-way battle happening here. You've got 2 leaders and a lap car that was a leader a moment ago, with also Rick Lovison hanging on to 4th just behind. It's Dan Ensch, one of the series favorites, and I feel like we say that every week in how Dan is competitive and can get right up there, but you know, Dan is always playing that long game, and I'll tell you, it's fun, that game that Dan plays, because sometimes you get to trap your competitors an entire lap down and it's just like a total It's like Sebastian Bourdais did not that long ago at Milwaukee, where he just found himself up like a lap or two on the rest of the competition. It's a fun way to win races that way. Just timing it right, but it's this is not so much going to look like it's going to pan out to be a fuel save race, and I think Dan has had just about enough of getting trapped into one of these long-range strategies that just don't pan out. So Dan's up there in front, fighting hard, and like my commentator from season 11 often would say, Matt Kingsbury, he'd say, I really like what Dan's doing here. He's making everybody else have to work and have to chase him and keeping him honest. And boy, you got to do a lot of that with a guy like Graham Bunyan. You got to keep him honest. Somebody's got to go out there and lead off the front so that Graham can't just do whatever strategy he'd like. So a lot of these drivers try to do that, but of course, trying and being able to outsmart, outwit, and outplay Mr. Bunyan has been an entire different thing entirely. So you can see David Strid trying to get that lap back after his mistake entering the pits. Australian looked like he had the race, if not in the bag, a podium position sewn up. David Strid did, but unfortunately one of about 4 cars struggling to get onto pit lane, including 3-time champion Jason Lowe. Dan Ensch saying, no, Strid, you're not having this lap back. I just don't trust you. I don't want you to get that lap back in the event that you come around and you can get back up here and beat me again. I don't want that to happen. So Dan Ensch fighting hard on the outside to keep Strid a lap down. But Strid, I don't think, is going to play by any rules that Dan has. Only unfortunate thing for Strid is this being the track and the drafting battle that it is, he won't really be able to walk off the front of this one. So Ensch still in first in this lead. However, Bunyan right now challenging him, and perhaps Bunyan able to follow Strid through, get some of that draft, and get the race lead away from Dan Ensch, as you just saw. So Bunyan now to the point. The series leading driver now in the lead, in command, and that is where Graham Bunyan pretty much feels the most comfortable. So we watch as Bunyan continues on lap 63. David Strid, I don't think Graham Bunyan is going to play David Strid quite as hard as Dan Ensch did, trying to keep him at bay, but we'll find out. I'm not sure if Graham is totally content to sit behind Strid, but again, the whole point is, if you are sitting behind another car, you can save fuel. I don't really know about saving tires per se, but I mean, in some ways, it could be heavier because you have to take an adjusted line when you are following behind. But the fact of the matter is, if, for example, as we're watching Graham Bunyan from on board right now, if you catch a little bit of that draft and allow the car to go up higher and then run the high line through the corner, as Graham Bunyan does here, undoubtedly that does ease the tire wear a bit on the right-hand side. So, you know, just a lot of little tricks to play to work with and mitigate the effects of the wash coming off of that car in front. So let's take a look back through the field, as this is not a battle for first, but it could be if Strid can hold his position here, because Strid will get his lap back should a yellow come out. Not only will he's gotten his lap back, in fact, at this moment. So there's no question about him getting the lap back at this point. If he can stay in front, he will not have to go out of sequence in pitting to get his lap back. If the yellow were to come out right now, he would cycle back around to the back of his field. He would get to pit with the leaders on the same lap. And in effect, he would then be in race-winning contention. David Strid would be. So that's why Graham Bunyan, if anything, now David Strid's a good friend, Graham Bunyan, so he's probably not really concerned about this, but if Graham Bunyan were concerned, he would be up there challenging Strid to keep him a lap down just for that purpose. The benefit of that would be if Graham Bunyan can get back into the lead of David Strid, as Bunyan now peeling off into the pits. That is interesting. Safely gets down onto pit road this time. And we have Richard Kelbaugh, Mr. StickQuik, also making his way into the pits. So these two drivers, the only ones thus far to pull in. And it's kind of interesting because you would have thought it would have been Dan Ensch who's led more laps, or David Strid leading more laps. We are 57 laps away from the end of this one, and, well, I'm going to assume this is a master play by Graham Bunyan, because when your series, you know, when you've won the league already and you win a bunch of races, hey, I defer to your strategy, my friend. As David Strid now safely actually getting onto pit road, and Manuel Gomez Esteban, same thing, able to get onto pit road. Mike West, Rick Lovison, also making their ways into the pits. Do you have this note that Rick Lovison perhaps having a moment getting into the pits? Straddling that apron, and it's catching another one out. Rick Lovison sliding through the grass, doing a little 180-degree lawn mowing there, and gets it straightened up. Now, I mean, that, again, he lost some time getting into the pits, as we see race leader Dan Ensch. Go back to the live picture here. Dan Ensch now making his way into the pits. No notes about going off track there. Also, Iñigo Mardones, you see rolling past Dan Ensch into the pits. So that will hand over the lead to Howard Livingston, who also successfully gets in. And we watch as Graham Bunyan will inherit the lead after his second pit stop. Yeah, I'm not sure. You know, another potential is, we look at the temperature. It's actually come down a little bit. It's 5 o'clock virtual time in May here at Kansas. And there is a good chance, the temperature's gone down a couple of degrees. This series a lot of times has earlier morning races or night races. And so tire degradation and temperature on track is not generally an issue. But I am wondering if that 100 degrees is playing a role, and Graham Bunyan perhaps saw that and decided before time started slipping or the car started getting a little too loose, or perhaps fearing that, you know, he was too close to Strid and possibly not making up the type of ground that he would like on Strid or the rest of the field, Bunyan deciding to pit when he did. Now, what has that done now that everybody has cycled around? Well, why don't we get our track map up there so you can see where everybody's at? You just look at the initials on the screen, you'll see it is Graham Bunyan who's in first, and David Strid has fallen back a couple of seconds. If we can let me adjust there. There you can see. So Strid losing a couple of seconds with that pit stop exchange, and therefore now going back a lap down. So he'll have to fight to get that lap back. Howard Livingston is the nearest driver. He's a full 8 seconds back, but Howard gaining 4 spots on the day. I mean, I would say the predictions are true. He won last season at Las Vegas on a 1.5 miler. I think Howard Livingston just loves these 1.5s, these D-shapers, I think he's becoming a driver that you have to circle each and every week as a driver that can do it if it's a D-shaped oval. That is for certain. Iñigo Mardones and Mike West having quite a rip-roaring battle here. This is for third place in the final podium spot. There comes Mike West by Iñigo. Iñigo, I think, struggling to adapt on the new side of the stint with the new tires. He's really struggling to adapt to those cold tires and getting the adjustments exactly right for where he needs to be, as we see Rick Kelbaugh now creep into that picture. Wants his hand possibly to try on Iñigo, see if he can get that fourth place position. Looking out the front of the StickQuik machine. Green and black livery, very vivid. Looking up in front, so it's only got to track down about 0.6 of a second. And Rick might be looking at one of his best finishes of the season right here at Kansas. Great place to do it in front of a sold-out crowd. Get that StickQuik logo and name out there so everyone can see how cool of a product that is, which we'll talk about here in just a moment, as we always do each and every week. StickQuik, a great partner to the series, been around a couple of seasons as the primary sponsor and covering a lot of the costs for the league. As you can see, this is just a fantastic league. Great drivers, very clean, very much care about putting on a great show out there. So we saw Rick Lovison early. He got the lead, had a couple of moments on the pit cycle where he drifted back to third, and now fortunately Lovison has drifted back to sixth, so that podium position starting to slip out of his grips. But we'll see whether that can turn around by the end of this one. Unfortunately, Dan Ensch really catching the wrong side of these pit stops and now back in 7th place and a lap down. So Dan is going to have to pull some magic horseshoes, some lucky horseshoes out of his tailpipe and see if he can get his way back up there to the front. But Graham Bunyan is your leader, and you can see Strid has hauled him in and gotten around again. So Strid, I see Strid is actually now not on the lead lap. So he's still going to be a lap down now. So he's going to have to fight to get another lap back. And so that puts him onto the same lap as Dan Ensch, but once again, not part of this league group, actually. So it's Howard Livingston in second, and then this battle also not for position. That's Gomez Esteban, who is also a couple of laps down at the moment, but fighting hard and trying to get best potential finish that he can today. Going to say, with the way that people were having difficulty there, that getting onto pit road, pretty much just got to make sure you can make your pit stops. You might get a top 5 out of this race. But Mike West drifting up to the front. He's in third right now. Look at this guy. Up 6 spots on the day. West having a really good run of it. Now, he has won in the series before. If I recall, it was a fuel mileage race, and David Zaleski, the losing party on that race, just falling out of the lead with West coming through at the end. I think Dan Ensch also, if I recall, that was one where Ensch almost had it made on fuel mileage and then just ran out of fuel to the start-finish stripe. I could be recalling wrong, but I do recall correctly that Mike West has won in this league. He won last season. So we'll see if West, who's Bunyan's teammate, and managed to scrape up this podium. So as we look back, there's Iñigo Mardones. He's starting to drift off the back of West. He hasn't fallen too far back yet to make a run of it, but it's once again starting to slip out of Iñigo's Mardones' hands. This top 5 is still there, but I don't know if a podium position is in the cards for today. But it doesn't really matter, right? If you're a competitor, you just keep charging. You just keep plugging away at it. You keep your head down, keep clicking off those laps, because you never know what'll happen up in front. As we see, who are we seeing having a problem up here in front? Is that Strid? No, that was not Strid. So I'm not exactly sure who that was. So we go back to, we look at, Esteban. And Gomez Esteban, a lap down from David Strid, and about 2 laps off of the leader at the moment. But hanging on to a top 10 finish. And we do have Jason Lowe out of the race, as well as James Kennedy and Danny Alt. So Lowe's woes continue, unfortunately, in the US IndyCar League. What was so magical in Season 10 has unfortunately unraveled for the Floridian in Season 12. Season 11 was pretty good for Jason Lowe, frequently up in the front, mixing it up, but just has had no luck this season. And those little moments of spins into the pits or just getting it wrong, costing Lowe multiple races this season. But he still has the pace. We could see a great last 3 quarters of this season for Lowe. We'll just have to watch and see how it unfolds. But Graham Bunyan working with David Strid up in front. Strid trying to get a couple of laps back. Howard Livingston now 9.5 seconds back, kind of in his own race at the moment. 2.61 seconds back to the driver behind, which is Mike West. And, you know, at this time, it's midway through the stint and most of the way through the race. And really, this is the point where you really are truly just watching your relative times, feeling out the car, if you're Livingston, and just making sure you're not going too high on that weight jacker, just trying to keep the car nice and balanced. Get these solo laps in. Hopefully you can get some drafting help from somebody at some point, but obviously it's not going to come from Graham Bunyan, who's 9.8 seconds up the road. You would need to be within about 1.5 seconds back. But yeah, this is kind of actually a comfortable time if you're a driver, where it's, I mean, at least when I'm in this position, I am not kidding. I'm usually saying, thank God. Thank God I have a breather. Just because it can always be such a tight battle, you know, that when you're side by side for lap after lap after lap, and you're forced kind of into a position down low or up high, and you have to race there, and you've got to manage drivers in your rear view while trying to race the guy in front of you. That's really difficult stuff. But when, you know, you can get into your own gap and get a little bit of breathing room in front and behind, you got nobody racing you side to side, it's kind of like, it's a nice sunny day. I think I'll be out here. It's a sunny, I'm out on a Sunday drive, you know? It's beautiful, puffy clouds around, all the fans in the stands. Maybe give a quick wave to the fans up there, and your girlfriend or your wife down at the pit stand, and just kind of enjoy yourself for a minute, Howard Livingston. You're in second place. There's no worries. And that's really how it feels. Of course, you can never settle into something like that. You know, and if you're Graham Bunyan or any of these drivers, you can never let yourself actually settle in, because just like driving on the highway, this can all change in just a fraction of a moment. And it often does, because we get into these long diatribes and asides, and quite frequently we're like, oh, isn't it nice? They're running 1, 2, 3, and then boom, a yellow flag, somebody gets it wrong, gets into someone else, makes a small mistake, spins out. Here we're watching Graham Bunyan. Will he get it slowed up in time? Just barely. Boy, does he use up a little extra room getting into the pits there. And just let you know, if you hear Graham switching between gears, it's just a little trick to get a little more speed down pit road. This champion always doing everything he can to get a little more speed, even if he's got a 9-second lead. That's how you build those leads. It's how you get those championships. You just, really good pit exit, leaving his pit stall there, up to speed very quickly, using up all the track, maximizing that pit out. And, it's just stuff like that that just lets you know, today it maybe doesn't matter, but someday it does, maybe tomorrow, or maybe we find out, due to the way that cautions work out and everything, saving an extra second on pit road right there, it really did matter. We won't know that until the end of the race. You can't know. So you try to build up as much of a bank, because how do you know whether you're going to end up in first at the end of this, or you're going to suffer some damage or not? But nevertheless, in the type of competition that somebody like Graham Bunyan has been doing across all of iRacing, so we see Howard Livingston and then Iñigo Mardones just behind, getting into the pits pretty safely. That will give up the lead as soon as he cycles around to Graham Bunyan once again, who's on your screen. When you're racing in really tight competition, 30-car fields, and, if you're very, very closely matched, doesn't matter on a road course or on an oval, every quarter of a second you can make up on those in-laps, out-laps, on pit road, getting in and out of your box. Every little bit of time makes a difference. And in some of these races like this one, as we see also Dan Ensch getting to his pit box as well. But as we often see, track position is really key. So, for example, as you get down to the last 20 laps here, if you happen to get out in front of another driver exiting the pits, whether that's, let's say we're doing our green flag stops right now, and you could get out in front of Graham Bunyan and try to hold that lead. As you can see here at Kansas, it's almost impossible to pass on the outside. So if you're staying out there in front, you've put yourself in a position to win just by getting out in front of Graham Bunyan. And that's why it's so important to try to save that extra little bit of time getting into your pits, into your pit box, and out of your pit box. And that's where a lot of these drivers have to say, you've got to look at a master like Graham Bunyan, is 6,000, close to 6,000 I rating, stronger than anybody else in the field. And if you really want to get fast, that's how you do it. You learn from the fast guys like Graham. And so study exactly where those pit ends, where his pit in begins, where his braking begins from turn 3 to get into the pits and get onto the apron. Watch his line, his hands on the wheel as he transitions down into the pit lane, and where he gets his braking done by to get into the pit lane. And oh my goodness, it's like a race within a race. You can see how complex and complicated it gets. But if you're one of these racers and you want to get faster and you want to start beating Graham Bunyan, you've got to do exactly that. So we recap, we're under 20 laps to go. It is Graham Bunyan, the infamous Australian, leading this race here in Kansas, Pleasure to have you here watching us on VirtualRacing.Network. And, of course, Will Stern stopping by, letting us know that he thinks it's going to be Mike West closing this one out in third, potentially, and maybe stronger. Will Stern's not able to compete this week. A couple of drivers having to sit this week out, so we're not seeing as full of a field as we saw last week with 17 drivers, but good to have Will stop in, and Will's always an active part of this league, whether he's competing or not. So, last time pitted was lap 101 for Graham Bunyan. I think he'll be able to make it to the end now for sure, as will the rest of these drivers. Rick Kelbaugh came in on lap 98, so it could be a little questionable for him. But I think everyone else is going to be fine. We'll have to see if Rick can hang on to that fourth place. So we'll look here as Livingston in the Care Camps machine. Of course, we'll have the Care Camps Indy race at the end of the season. Get a good chance to talk about Care Camps. And Mike West holding down third there. So could be teammates on the podium between Graham Bunyan and Mike West, sandwiching Howard Livingston, but Livingston doesn't care how it looks. I think he would love to take that second place right now, do wonders for him in the championship. I mean, Livingston is starting to emerge as a favorite for at least the second place in this championship. But there we can see another driver who's having, can I just say, one hell of a day. It's Richard Kelbaugh, Mr. StickQuik, hanging on to that green and black machine. Dan Ensch faster and perhaps going to try to make a pass, but not for position. Ensch getting the raw end of a yellow flag and having difficulty earlier on. Slid back a couple of laps, and so our focus stays on the StickQuik machine. And so, well, you won't have to miss anything, but it's a good time to talk about StickQuik, I think. As you can see there on your screen, this is one of those awesome inventions you had no idea that you needed for your house or your garage or your kitchen or wherever. Just look at it. It's a little ring. It's made of silicone, and it's super durable, and they supply also these little pads that you can place anywhere. They'll stick on just about anything, and they're magnetic. So the ring itself is magnetic. The pad that they give you can see it there in that photo. The pad they give you is magnetic, and that means you can turn anything into a place where you can stick anything you want. So you can see, great for tools, great for utensils in your kitchen, great for even makeup in your bathroom, or, you know, what have you. Just let your mind run wild. Tell us. Put a comment down below if you get a StickQuik or if you think of a cool use for it, and we'll publish that. You know, I'll talk about it on the air because I think that's cool. I want to know some crazy things you're doing with StickQuik that works for you. So head on over to StickQuik.com if you haven't already and get your set. They come in multiple different colors. Always so cool to see StickQuik presenting this series and part of the series, and hearing about what other people are doing with it. Some of the people privately have been commenting to me what they've been doing with it, and so always great to find out about that. Go back to live coverage. Unfortunately, you saw it there just a moment ago. It was actually the slippery Rick Lovison there sneaking by Rick Kelbaugh. So Lovison getting the Berkshire machine up into fourth, but Rick Kelbaugh still hanging on to that top five up 2 spots. Lovison did qualify substantially better than Kelbaugh today. He qualified almost on the pole, but qualified second. Unfortunately, he's not been able to hang quite on with that pace to get second, but he is looking at third And if I'm looking at the lap times, I don't think he's got enough pace to be able to haul in Mike West, but he potentially could catch some draft off of, I believe that is Dan Ensch just ahead. So if he could, he might be able to haul in our third place driver right now, who is Mike West. But nevertheless, easier said than done. Got quite a challenge to make that one work. But anyway, Mike West, Yakima, Washington. I was just over in your neck of the woods the other day, Mike. Actually, yesterday. We were just over there talking about going over to Yakima. Ended up at Mount Rainier. It was a beautiful drive. Hope you're enjoying the weather here in Washington, Mike. Haha, you're enjoying it because you're up in third, man. Great run for Mike West, getting back into competitive mode. Might we see more of that for the future? I think so. We'll have to work a little bit stronger with Graham Bunyan in the weeks to come, but perhaps those two can pull each other up together. Howard Livingston, though, finding himself in the middle of that teammate sandwich. Livingston out of Florida as well, racing on behalf of numerous groups, including the Coconut Castaways down there in Florida, are doing great work with the care camps as well. But a musician in his real life days, entertaining people with Jimmy Buffett songs down there in Florida, and then a race car driver on the weekends, having a good time and potentially going to get that second place. And in the meantime, it's Graham Bunyan, who's on his final lap and looking to potentially take home this Kansas 190. It's actually 190.5 miles, but he'll do the extra half a mile with ease, and he'll win this one by almost 20 seconds. It's Graham Bunyan taking the checkered flag here in Kansas without even breaking a sweat. Howard Livingston now completing his laps, just trying to hang on to that gray and red machine, purple. As he swings under the flag stand there, he'll take a convincing second place for Howard Livingston. And just behind, about a second and a half, it was Mike West. Bringing it home fourth, Rick Lovison. Be happy with that one, I think, but we'll talk to him hopefully afterwards. Rick Kelbaugh getting that top five. So there is Rick getting up into competitive mode. Might we see more from Mr. StickQuik in the future? That is always going to be the question. That's why you should tune in next week, see how this one turns out as these drivers continue to wrestle with these machines and improve. I know, as I said, if I were trying to get a little faster next week, I'd be going back and studying whatever Graham Bunyan and probably Howard Livingston did this week. But don't look at what Jason Lowe did this week. It's okay. He's more than happy to admit that he's sometimes suffering in this series, and that's okay. We're all trying to get better here and improve. Graham Bunyan, though, looks like the driver that took the championship last season, looks like the driver that is in the lead of the points. He'll stack some more points onto that tally today. See what donuts look like from on board with Graham as we finish out this running order. Howard Livingston taking second place. Great run from Howard. And as I mentioned before, now emerging as the favorite to challenge possibly Bunyan for the championship and certainly for second place. We'll see how that develops as the season goes on. Mike West in third. Fantastic finish from him, back to competitive form. Rick Lovison having another spectacular finish, definitely seeing the competitiveness from Rick jumping up this season. So great run from him. Rick Kelbaugh taking home that fifth place. Again, just hanging on when others weren't and, taking advantage of others' misfortunes for certain. But either way, Rick Kelbaugh having a great top 5 finish here. Iñigo Mardones drifting back a bit from where he started, unfortunately. Or no, I take it back. I was thinking of a different driver. Iñigo finished in 6th, up 2 spots from where he started. Nevertheless, you saw Iñigo right up there in the front earlier. He's going to be trying to figure out how this one got away from him. Dan Ensch, somebody that we're accustomed to seeing it work out, and for him to be up in the front, once again ending up on the wrong end of this one. 7th place, and nevertheless getting a finish in, not wrecking out of the race and not finishing outside of the top 10. Actually a semi-decent day for Dan given the rest of the races he's been having this season. David Strid there in 8th. He was up in the front too, suffering from pit lane entry-itis. Manuel Gomez Esteban in 9th. A solid top 10, but he's got the pace for a top 5. Lowe, just we don't know what we're gonna get with Lowe. It's either top 10 or just outside of the top 10, or he could potentially win the race. He's kind of like Paul Tracy. They used to call him in the wall Paul for a reason, but it was wreckers or checkers for Paul at one point. James Kennedy, 11th place. He is a winner. He'll be back up there. He was up in the front today. Unfortunately, that's the way it ended up back there in 11th. A really difficult pit entry-itis situation. And Danny Alt just catching the apron on the inside, unfortunately. He was having a decent race. We'll look forward to getting Danny and a number of other drivers like Don Day, who couldn't make today's race as well. Look forward to getting them back into the field. So let's take a look over into our broadcast booth. We'll see if we can nab one of these drivers. Why don't we go ahead and talk to Dan Ensch, who had a very interesting day today, and we'll let Dan tell you about it. So first of all, Dan, can you hear me there in the booth?
Yeah, I got you. How you doing, Trevor?
Well, I'm doing pretty good. It was really exciting watching that purple, white, and alls.org machine up there in the front. I was like thinking, is he doing the fuel save thing, or is he going to actually try to hold this lead? And you were not letting anybody through, not even David Strid, who was trying to get his lap back. I mean, it looked like you were going to take this one off the front with no problems, and then some disaster struck. So what was your day like, Dan?
Well, the pit cone giveth and the pit cone taketh away. The first break I got was, I did do a little fuel saving, and I managed to get one more lap, and that put me out in front because I was diving into the pits. The yellow came out. The two in front of me had to commit to the pit, and I ducked out of the pit lane and got back on the road, and that put me in the lead after the restart. But then on that one, I looked in my rearview mirror. I thought I made the cones, and I looked in the rearview mirror, and I saw two cones stand, and I thought I was good, and all of a sudden it flagged me. And now I look back at the replay on lap 72, and it shows the cone flying away from me. So, it's one of those deals. I got a 40-second hold, and that was my day. But I had a lot of fun up front. I knew I was fast. I knew I was competitive today. Looking forward to a shootout with Graham and David or whoever else was up there, but it just didn't work out. So the alls.org car will settle for a 7th place, and we'll come back next week.
You seem to be able to do that and respawn. You know how easy it is to get either shuffled into some difficult luck during a race, etc. But how do you do that? How do you just put a difficult day like this behind you and show up next week ready to charge again and not let it get to you? Do you do anything special to put it out of your mind, or do you have it worked out by now that you just do it by automatic?
It doesn't really get into my mind that much. When all is said and done, there's a whole lot of things in life that are a whole lot more important than iRacing, and I'm having fun. That's all it is. I'm having a great time, win, lose, or draw. I love getting out there and running around the track and acting like a big time guy when I know I'm not, and I'm just having fun. So as long as you keep it in the perspective that this is not the all end all of life, you have fun. That's all there is to it.
Well, beautifully said. Of course, we'll all get to watch the big time guys out there in their season finale at Long Beach here coming up in a couple of hours. But it's cool to get our big time guys, the real drivers of the US IndyCar League like yourself out there. And you're doing great things as well, getting the message out for Alzheimer's Association and bringing that message out. So thanks for everything that you're doing for them and showing up every week, bringing your A game. Appreciate it, Dan.
Well, thanks to you too, Trevor, and thanks to StickQuik for making all this possible with the broadcast and everything. We do appreciate everything they do for us.
You betcha. Well, we'll catch Dan back again next week. The strategy master will be back at it. Will he be running up at the front and trying to get that win off the front, or will he be saving fuel in the back? That's why you got to tune in, because you never know. I'm still looking for that race where Dan wins by 1 or 2 laps because he was on the exact perfect fuel strategy, and it will happen. So in the meantime, why don't we go ahead? I was hoping to get our third place Mike West in here because gosh darn it, the guy's practically a neighbor of mine, and I'd like to meet him at some point, but soon we will. I promise you that. We'll have to pressure Graham to get his teammate in here. Anyway, Howard Livingston, though, that is a gentleman that we have talked to a few times very recently, and that is really good news anytime we get a chance to do that. He's here in the booth with us from second place out on the track in Kansas. Howard Livingston, can you hear me?
I got you, Trevor. How you doing, buddy?
I am fantastic. It was great chance to watch some different strategy play out there. Unfortunately, some mistakes not helping some drivers, and some other drivers taking great advantage of those mistakes. But you look solid all day and a fantastic drive forward. You had that I always want to call it care camps machine up there, looking great in second place, and you made no mistakes in that final stint. You brought it home in second. Congrats once again, another podium finish for you here in the series. Great job, Howard.
Thank you so much, and great race, everybody. And hats off to Graham again. He is such a incredible talent. It's I don't mind coming in second behind him. And I had the day was good. The first pit stop, I was coming into the pits just as the yellow fell, so I got a entering closed pits penalty, so I had to drop the back of the line. But fortunately, the rest of the pit stops were pretty smooth, and we didn't make any mistakes and got to move up a little bit.
You moved up. It seemed like you were in your own race there in the very final stint. You had quite a long gap up in front, and then you had about a 3-second lead. It eventually ended up being about a 1.5 seconds back to Mike. Was there anything that you were trying to do there at the end? Are you looking at the second place saying, oh my goodness, I just want this second so bad. This is going to help the points. This is your best finish so far of the season. Are you getting the butterflies thinking just hold on to it, or were you just comfortable, confident in the car? It was working right for you. How are you feeling there at the end of the race?
Yeah, I was comfortable toward the end until it got close to the end. Of course, at that point, you're saying, what can go wrong? What can happen here? And we had I had a lap at the end. I had a lap car in front of me, and I saw how far Mike West was behind me, and I realized, I don't have to pass that lap car because obviously we all had old tires, and if you can avoid that, that's a good thing. So I just kind of let off a little bit at the end because I knew I had enough to capture second, and I knew there was no way I was going to catch Graham. So that was kind of my strategy at the end.
Well, either way, when you do hang on to it and you get that final finish of second place, it's got to feel good. As I mentioned, it's going to add to your points total. I think everybody can clearly see that not only does Howard Livingston love these D-shaped 1.5 mile ovals, and is he a competitor there, but I think you've pretty much emerged as one of the only drivers that can challenge Graham Bunyan for that series championship, and certainly emerged now as the favorite for second place. Good to have that kind of outlook going into the last 3 quarters of the season.
You better believe it, and we'll take it, and feeling very blessed.
Well, I hope you continue with your blessed season, and of course, we will love to see you at the end of the season for the Care Camps Indy race, which should be very special. And again, just so great having you do what you do for them and get the message out about that great organization. And so good luck with the rest of the season, Howard. I know we have a road course next. Is that going to be a challenge for you?
Road courses are not my strongest area, but I love them, and it's going to be a great race. And we'll just try to keep our nose clean and go as fast as we can.
There you go. Well, good luck with the rest of the season. We'll look forward to seeing that. And also just, the good news is that you'll be one of the oval guys that are out there trying to do battle. So that can be a lot of fun because not many of you oval guys really have a lot of experience on these road courses. So it should be a lot of fun to watch. Good luck for the rest of the season, Howard.
Thanks so much, Trevor, and thanks for the incredible job you did with the broadcast. It's really, really wonderful to have you on board.
Well, my pleasure, and just keep getting that Care Camps machine up there in the front so we can put the camera on it. That was Howard Livingston joining us from Florida. He'll be enjoying the rest of his Sunday, I'm sure, in the sunny sunshine and enjoying the lovely breezes as they come in and sipping on margaritas, etc. So now we'll get a chance to welcome our winner, and no surprise, it was in fact Graham Bunyan who worked his magic, and Graham, you did it again this week, and this week was even more convincing than it has been in previous weeks. So I'm just wondering, is this a personal mission of yours to make it more convincing each week that you're the winner? Or is it just happenstance that you happen to win by almost 20 seconds? Congratulations, by the way.
Thanks. No, look, congrats to the podium, Howard and Mike. Well done. I intentionally started from the pits this race. I thought I was tossing up whether to grid up or not to grid up, and I thought, no, I'll just let it go. And I ended up catching the back of the pack. I think it was like 19 laps in. I caught the back of the pack and started passing the back guys. And then the first lot of pits happened, and Dave looks like he's brake pinched on the transition between the race line and the coming into the pits, which made him overshoot the pit entry. And then I've come in the next lap, and in front of me was the leader, who was also wrecking in front of me. So, look, I wanted it to have a green race so I could be up the front to race at the end, just for something different. But this has always been a good track of mine, so.
Well, this is the sort of track where if you could get the lead, really difficult for anybody to get by. And obviously that did play a role for some time when Dan Ensch was up in front and you were having a battle for the lead, having to try to figure out, for a while you were trying to figure out how to get around David Strid, but also you were trying to figure out how to get around Dan and others. So it kind of worked itself out and gave you that position up, but nevertheless, you do seem to have that figured out here, how to not only get around drivers on the outside of a track where that does not seem to be possible for anybody else, but then also how to hold that lead once you're in that place. So anything special that you do when you're on a track like this, where it's almost impossible to pass somebody on the outside? Are you planning for it in the long run? Are you saying, I'm going to save my tires a little bit, I'm going to run on the outside, maybe force them to the inside? Did you have a strategy that you were trying to employ, or was it just take what you can get each lap?
Yeah, no, look, you're always learning each lap, and you're always trying to pick your point where, how far you need to hang back, how far you need to be before you throw it down and make it happen. And there was a pass that I set up on Dan, which I got done and went on the inside there, which was quite fine. And then once I'd done that, I thought, I'll step back. But there was a little bit of a strategy. I didn't want Dave to be too far down, just in case another yellow came out. So we left him in front to keep him to hopefully for a yellow, and then we all would have pitted, and he then would have got a lap back. But I think the pace is there to pass. It was just a matter of doing it at the right time.
And you did it at exactly the right time. I don't know how you seem to be able to navigate these issues that others don't, but or that others, they're not able to navigate them. But you didn't have those same problems getting onto pit road. And I'll tell you, we watched from on board as you did your entire final stop executed, perfectly. It was as though you were racing with somebody who was just a quarter of a second off your tail. getting into the pits. You were so close on that last pit entry to not making it. I was shocked that you actually did make it because so many others had not, including David Strid. But it was like the perfect pit stop, watching you not only get into the pits on the limit and then just barely make the line, but then using the trick going down pit road to get a little bit more speed, perfectly out of your box, using up all of the exit on pit exit and getting up to maximum speed. Graham, I mean, it's not by luck or chance that you're pulling off these race wins. It's because you execute at an absolutely impeccable level. So, I mean, I don't know. It seems like it doesn't matter whether somebody's a quarter of a second off your tail or you're in front by 10 seconds. You seem to pull it off every single week. So what is your secret to concentration? Maybe that's it. Do you do like heavy meditation before races? Is there like a certain workout regimen that you do? How do you keep that focus, that laser focus, to be able to execute at that high level?
I don't know. I just have people talking in my ears all the time. I love hearing people talk. I think I concentrate on that, and I just get into a zone where it just becomes autopilot. And you're listening to everything else around you, but at the same time you're focusing, but you're not really. I don't know. You're not really focusing that hard, like as in, oh my God, what am I doing here? What am I doing there? It's like you just get in this zone, and away you go. I suppose I've always had a thing for doing that, but don't get me wrong, it was never easy when I first started in one of these cars, that's for sure.
And there you go. You've been at it for a little while. And then we know that some of the other things that you're doing in the cars, the Logitech G series being heavily promoted at me, but you've already done your work there and you're still in competition for that. So please continue to keep us informed as to how that goes. Sure love to be able to follow you live from Las Vegas when that happens. But also, again, you've spent so much time in other forms of sport here on iRacing, and you do put in your time behind the wheel. So some of it has to be your prep and just really how much seat time you get in these cars or have gotten in these cars.
Oh yeah, look, definitely. And I think I've said it once before, road racing really helps with these cars, even though you're only going around in a circle. It's still, if you've got to lift into a corner or make an apex right, it pays off to do a lot of road racing as well. So it's just not all about going around left-hand turns.
Exactly. And those pit stop, I mean, a lot of those same techniques apply. I mean, for example, your pit in and getting to your box exactly perfectly, getting a great launch out of the box and maximizing your pit exit, all of that stuff applying directly to road courses just as easily, and perhaps even sometimes even more important, just because of how difficult it can be to pass on some of those tracks where it's difficult to get a draft down a straightaway or something. On road courses, maybe the only way you're going to get by somebody, as we see frequently in Formula One, is to get it done in the pits by gaining an extra half a second on your competition. So anyway, it is awesome to see you execute at such a high level. Our champion here in the US IndyCar League, you're on a great march towards that championship here again. And we continue to enjoy watching each and every week you do your mastery here on VirtualRacing.Network. Thank you so much for operating at such a high level and bringing it every week, Graham. It's awesome to watch.
Yeah, no worries. No, look, it's good to be here. I literally come home from work. I sat down and watched the F1. No spoilers. I won't say nothing. And I literally got down here with, I think, about 15 minutes to go before the race started. So I got a little bit of track time, and that was that. But yeah, no, look, it's great. It's good. Week in, week out. It's good. It's fun. Race with all the guys and have fun. Let your hair down. Not that I've got much.
That's true. That's true. But you are letting your hair down and having a good time on Sunday. We do appreciate it. And I hope you have a great rest of your Sunday evening and enjoy your first-person shooters that you play. And we'll look forward to seeing you again next week. This time, it's going to fall right into your favor as the road course specialist of the group. Going to be looking at Watkins Glen Classic next week. Should be a lot of fun. I know a track that you have a lot of experience at.
Yeah, look, some of these guys are good road racers. They doubt themselves, but they are good road racers. I know Dave's a good road racer. He's very consistent with times, and that gets him a long way. That's David Strid.
Mm-hmm.
Jason Lowe can be pretty fast there on roads as well. James, I think, if I remember rightly. So there's a few fast guys there. Howard can be fast as well. They've all got their potential.
And indeed, that potential is we'll get to watch it next week. Will Graham Bunyan start from the pits and make it even more exciting? We don't know. It didn't hurt him this week. He took the win in convincing fashion, just as he's managed to take many wins thus far, pole positions and victories. Graham, great having you. You're class act, and you are a milestone for all of these drivers to achieve anywhere close to the level of success that you've had. Thank you so much, and we'll look forward to seeing the rest of the season here in the US IndyCar League.
Thank you, and thanks to everybody else, and thanks to StickQuik for sticking around.
Well, StickQuik is the presenting sponsor of the series. I've got mine. Do you have yours? Go to StickQuik.com. That was Graham Bunyan basically signing off for us here on VirtualRacing.Network. So glad to have you with us for the whole season, and definitely make sure that you do subscribe over on the YouTube channel so you'll get notified of all of our future upcoming races. Of interest to you might be the upcoming Thursday races that we'll be doing on the Indy Fix series. Very similar format, fixed setups, some of the greatest IndyCar iRacing drivers around the world competing. That's Thursdays, so make sure you check for your local time and subscribe, and you'll get notified of those races, as well as the IndyCar iRacing series is now over, but we'll be doing some more interesting coverage of IndyCar racing, as well as the Prime Meridian Racing League, which will be starting its new season coming up in October, so make sure to stay tuned for that. Again, I'm Trevor Greenfield. It was a pleasure having you with us here on VirtualRacing.Network, and so on behalf of myself, VirtualRacing.Network, and all the competitors of US IndyCar League, it was an absolute pleasure. We saw Graham Bunyan take another one today, but will it be him next week when some other drivers have an opportunity? That is a question. We should show up and find out. David Strid, another front runner to watch on road courses. Jason Lowe. They'll all be back at it next week. Be here, same place, same time, 10 a.m. East Coast time, right here, VirtualRacing.Network. See you next time. Till then, bye-bye, everybody. And